Hello, friends, and welcome once again to Ghettofabulous Kings of War. Today we're going to look at a game I played yesterday in preparation for the Lady of the Lake GT. It's 2,200 points, plus you get a free knight character based off of the alignment of your army. Let's get right into it. It's going to be a little more Ghettofabulous than normal. It just takes too much time to put all the graphics and things in. I want to actually produce some products, so whatever. We'll get it out there and move forward. My goblin list. We got 3 groups of rabble, a horde, and 2 regiments. The backbone of any good goblin army. Cheap troops that can grab scoring objectives. 3 troll hordes, one with a fury item, one with headstrong, and one with the mace of crushing. 2 regiments of fleabag riders, 3 mincers, 3 blasters, 2 giants, 2 standard bearers, one with the loot of insatiable darkness, one with the healing charm, a whiz, it's inspiring and also has bane chant, and then of course the bonus knight. And you can see his stats down there. Speed 8, hits on 3s with 6 attacks, 14, 16 nerve, thunderous 2, crushing strength 1. He has vicious, he has bane chant 3, he has life leech 2, and he's very inspiring. He gets 15 points of items. I misunderstood the rules at first, so I only had the Blade of Slashing on him. And then while I was playing with my opponent, he pointed out the rules, so I just threw the Orcish Skull Pull on him, just for the heck of it. So I had been hoping to put together several battle reports ago, I had a list where I was trying to make an experimental kind of very mobile list. I actually finally got around to not painting those models, but sending them off to be painted because I was never going to do it myself. I came to terms with my painting ability and motivation, but those models haven't come back yet, so I had to go with something different. Normally, I don't have all these blasters and things, but it ends up being that goblins can't kill enough unless you don't take a lot of artillery like trombones and the rock lobbers. But if you bring all that, then you get a bunch of non-scoring units, so you struggle that way. So whatever, I'm going to go with lots of scoring units. These blasters are going to be a problem, but against certain armies that give me problems in melee, like Varangar or something, they may be enough to kill or keep away some of the more killy units. So I thought it'd be an interesting kind of mix. And my opponent, being Ratkin, is one of the armies that'll be more difficult to put those blasters to good use because it's a bunch of garbage. 5 regiments of slaves, 2 hordes of shock troops, and there may have been some items on those, I'm not sure. 2 death engines with vile sorcery. So right there I'm going to have a hard time getting close enough to use the blasters because they'll just shoot them up. 2 hackpaw regiments. It says 2 brute hordes. Actually, he only had 1 horde of brutes. I had a flying demon spawn, a standard bearer with the bow of Kaba. See, look at that. It's all Ghettofabulous. Here, let me correct on the fly. Look at this. 1 brute horde and a standard bearer. A warlock. He may have been inspiring. I'm not positive. And then he had a bonus knight with the same kind of loadout that mine had. So I'm not an expert on rats. I don't fight them very often. I'm kind of surprised. A lot of the rat armies I see have the plague bearers, and these guys don't. But shock troops are pretty nasty. And I always hate the demon spawn because he has a lot of flying units are dangerous, but they don't have a huge number of attacks, so they're only really dangerous if they flank. I think the demon spawn has 13 attacks. So, and it's not based off of thunderous. It's all just crushing strength. So, he's a legitimate threat for more units with just a straight-on frontal attack. And he's got lightning 5 or 6 or something. So, with his lightning, the warlock has lightning, and then he's got the death engine, so he's got a decent amount of ranged. Not devastating or anything, not super shooty list, but enough that's going to cause problems for him potentially. The Lady of the Lake has a weird system where there are you get 12 cards, I guess, at the beginning of the tournament, and each card has a different scenario on it. And then at the beginning of the game, you and your opponent both pick one of your cards. So you're playing for 2 scenarios, and every game has a base type of scenario that's the same. So we kind of tried to pick certain ones. The first one, we picked kill points together. We just said, hey, we both have very horde-based armies, so we're going to pick this kill points one just because it's going to be difficult for both of us, so you should prep it. And in that scenario, it was worded weird, but I think the basic intent was if you kill an enemy horde, or whatever it's kill points, but it's based off of unit strength. And if your opponent's army has a horde, then if you kill any horde, you get 1 victory point for the battle. If you kill more unit strength of your opponent than you lose, then you get a victory point. And if you kill twice as many unit strength as you lose, you get a victory point. Which you can see with a whole bunch of slaves or my goblins and things. We're going to lose a lot of kill point or a lot of unit strength, so our opponents will have a good chance of winning on this one. And then trying to look around at some of the other ones, we picked this wizard duel scenario. So your knight champion guy that you get, he gains lightning 4, and then you get a victory point if you cause at least 1 wound using lightning on a non-individual in the opponent's army. So you just zap a enemy unit. You get 1 victory point if you cause a wound to the enemy's champion using lightning. And then you get 1 victory point if you cause more wounds over the course of the battle with your lightning bolt than your enemy's champion using lightning bolt. So, little unusual. That means the whole rest of the fighting that's going on doesn't really matter, and you can score victory points by just having your wizard. In fact, you can get 2 victory points pretty much right off the bat by just zapping the enemy champion and zapping just a random unit. And then the one that the scenario objectives for every game, there's I guess every table will have a layout of terrain. Terrain is fixed. Terrain is described for the table, so everyone knows what it is. And certain pieces of terrain are, I guess, objectives. So you get 1 victory point for controlling more terrain pieces. And based off of how many points of enemy stuff you kill, it's not a differential, like did you kill more than your opponent. It's just how much did you kill, and then it's based off of a tier, like 0 to 1,000 is 1 point, 1,000 to 1,500 is 2 points, and 1,600 to 2,200 is 3 points, something like that. So let's take a look at the battlefield. So we got 2 height 2 hills, 2 height 4 impassables. Those 4 things are what we decided would be the objectives: hills and impassable buildings. We got 2 height 4 forests, a height flat piece of difficult terrain, and an obstacle. Nothing too fancy, pretty standard looking table. And after deployment, so I just kind of go through in general here. You can see on the Rat's army, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regiments of slaves kind of scattered throughout. He's got one of his what's called death engines, another death engine over here. So center to my left. The 2 shock troops are in the middle. And then he's got his brutes, 2 groups of hackpaws, and his demon spawn, flying demon spawn on the right here, my right. So my thought was, with all his meat in the middle here and his speed on the right, I'm going to try to stack on the right. First of all, I don't want to fight. My fear is that he's going to be more killy than I will be, especially with these hordes. These hordes are very killy. This guy's killy. So if I engage and do a lot of combat, I'm going to lose. So I'm going to try to get points with my wizard, zapping things, and with his, defense 2 slave units, I should be able to rack up a lot of lightning bolt wounds and win that one. So I'm going to go for the objectives. And I figure I can hold this one pretty easily. I can hold this hill because he doesn't have much over here. And then if I put a decent number of units on the left here, I should be able to go up, take this one, and then tie him up in the middle here. That's the goal. If I can stall out his middle so that it comes forward and then stalls out in the middle, I can come in and swoop around the left here and get these two, hold this one just by choking stuff up and having so many scoring units near. Hordes, I should be okay. So with that in mind, I've got my horde of rabble on the right, 2 hordes of trolls and a giant, a regiment of goblins, and 1 standard bearer. This becomes a problem because it's a lot to cover. I've only got 1 standard bearer over here. On the left, I put 2 of my blasters, my wizard, or my knight champion, my inspiring wizard, another giant, trolls, 2 mincers, rabble regiment, and my first group of fleabag riders. So, and I think there's another standard bearer in here. So I've got 3 inspiring things over here, 1 over here, and nothing in the middle here, which has a mincer, my other fleabag riders, and the other blaster. And the other part came in, where am I going to put these blasters? I kind of waited towards the end, trying to figure out where to put them. And my general thought was either they kind of go in the middle and rush into the middle of the enemy's army, if they don't have a lot of shooting, which these guys have enough that that's not going to work. Or maybe try to keep them in the back lines, so as my army moves forward, I can have them kind of staged throughout, and they can act as counters to flyers trying to get in my back. But he's only got 1 flyer, and his flyer can shoot. And if I put him in the back, he's going to be near my stuff, so he might blow up. So instead, I figured some of them I'm just going to put off to the side here, and they may end up being objective grabbers, or they're defense 5. Maybe they can hold up these slaves for a while. And this one, if I hide him behind the woods, if the enemy approaches, like I think they will, he can wait here for a few turns. He's safe from fire, and then when the enemy gets close, he can turn around, move out, and just blow up. That's the thought, at least. We'll see how that turns out. Just zooming in a bit. So on my left, his right. Oh, and there's his knight champion guy over here, which is a bit of a problem because he's fairly tough. Was it 14-16 with defense 5 and life leech 2? Center, I don't know where, but his warlock is in here somewhere as well. That's a standard bearer. And the rest of it. My brightly colored ugly guys. Yeah, so this is the first time I've played using this particular list. Of course, the tournament's like in a week and a half, so that's always a good plan. And the giant, he's turned around just so he can stay on there. So, despite my goal of not fighting much, I won the roll for first turn, and I decided to take it, which is strange, because normally in objective-based games, you kind of want to go second, and I wasn't super keen. At least originally, my plan was not to fight very much. But then I won first turn, I took it. I don't know if that was the right decision or not, because you can see on the right here, I didn't move much at all. I want them to waste time coming forward, and I want to hang around here. Maybe if I can get these guys to come forward and fight around here, one or both of my fleabag rider units can get around and maybe capture this hill behind them. But on the left, I do definitely want to advance. So they scoot up a little bit, and then with my knight champion with lightning 4 and my wizard with lightning 3, we can start putting some wounds on these guys. Not that killing a slave regiment is super critical, but again, I'm trying to rack up some points for my wizard champion to win the wizard duel scenario. And he only hits and wounds with 1, which is a theme for most of the game. My knight champion, despite having these super soft targets everywhere, is only hitting with 1 and only causing 1 wound a turn. So it's not going as well as I'd hoped. That's pretty much it. Besides those 2 lightning bolts, I don't have any shooting. So My opponent, you can see he starts moving forward as well, especially in the middle. And on the right, keeping nice in line. And with these hack paws, they're speed 9, so I got plenty of mobility, so he's already in charge range easily of my horde here. He's got a little bit more shooting, so this is my giant on the left. On the hill, his knight champion zaps it for 1. And I think his demon spawn or his warlock zapped my rabble here for 1, which is fine. Turn 2, I run my blaster up in the front of these slaves. I don't charge because I don't want it to blow up. I don't have to. It's just gonna, if it dies, it gives my opponent 1 victory point for a dead monster, right? So I'm just gonna throw them up there to stop these slaves, and if they do charge it and kill it, they'll probably die too. But I'm just gonna lightning bolt them, and then my giant trolls and mincer just keep advancing. I gotta put pressure on these things and clear them out. I realize that I can't just sit back here in the middle and hope these guys come in, because if these guys start charging, they'll be exposing their flank to the centerpiece. So I'm going to have to sacrifice a couple things to jam these guys up. So they probably should have moved forward last turn, so they're belatedly moving forward now. My mincer back here is a little stuck because I don't want to turn him very much to move him forward and expose his flank to shooting. And on the right, again, just some general maneuvering a bit. I'm expecting these hack paws to charge in. Hopefully these guys will die, and then I can countercharge and maybe start clearing them out. I decide to move my blaster forward. Not so much that I want to kill these slaves, but I think it will draw some shooting, and this mincer's flank is exposed. There's a couple softer targets over here, like these fleabag riders that are, I don't have inspiring over here, so I don't want them to get shot because they're kind of important. They're a mobile unit. This will be useful, whereas this thing is not going to be so useful. Looks like that must be his turn too. So I put another couple wounds on this regiment of slaves, but I don't kill them. And again, my champion only puts on 1 wound. And there's no melee, so that's it. Another quick turn for me. On his turn, his knight champion puts 2 wounds through shooting on my guy. And then between his doom wheel up here and a lightning bolt from the what's that called, warlock over here, he puts like 4 or 5 wounds on my mincer and wavers it, which is annoying because that was going to be the easiest thing to throw over here to be a roadblock. Oh, and you can see he moved forward a bit more, so now these guys are in the rough terrain here, and the shock troops are moving up. The slave regiment here and the doom wheel in the back, I think, are still in range of charging. They couldn't back up enough, so they're just going to take it. Over here, the hack paws do charge in against these guys, and everything else moves forward. He didn't shoot my blaster like I hoped he would. Instead, he charged these slaves into it. And he does charge over here into my blaster, causes 1 wound, but does not kill it, which is fine. That means I can just shoot him again. He causes 1 wound on this blaster and doesn't kill it. And he causes 11 wounds on my little horde of rabble here, but they survive as well. So we take quite a few wounds. Oh, he lightning bolts my giant back here, but everyone survives, so that's fine. So on my turn, top 03, the rabble here countercharged the hack paws on the right. My giant charges into the hack paws on the left, and then I angle these 2 trolls to face each other. So if this demon spawn flies in and hits one, I can try to attack with the other. I have to move my standard bearer. He's hiding behind the giant now, so that means he can now inspire all of these, but everything on the left here is not inspired, which is annoying. I move my blaster since he was fine. He just moves to the right, so he can blow up and hopefully hit both these slave regiments. And I sidestep my rabble so that they don't get, or they have less of a chance of getting caught in the blast. And these guys back up, so they won't get caught in the blast as well. In the center here, so you can see up in the upper left here, I charge the giant and the trolls into that regiment of slaves. Once I clear them out, hopefully I'll be able to start taking out this this stupid Doom Engine Death Wheel thing. Since he is stalled, I didn't want to commit my Fleabag Riders this early, but I can't just not block these guys up, because then these shock troops are going to flank, kill something over here. So I sacrifice these riders into the slaves. I don't think they're going to kill the slaves. I don't think the slaves are going to kill them right away. So hopefully, in some ways, I'm hoping this fight just peters out and blocks up the shock troops for a while. And that kind of makes this rabble pointless. They don't have a goal. Maybe they'll back up. If these Fleabag Riders die, they'll just charge in and keep jamming things up. And you can see my wizard and my Knight Champion move up. He's got 2 wounds on him. I considered charging him into these guys just to life leech the wounds back and heal up. But again, the scenario is to get points with Lightning Bolt. So I'm just going to zap these guys again. My blaster explodes, kills this unit on the left, causes 8 wounds to these rabble on the right, and wavers them. So a good blast, not the best targets for it, but you know, something. Lightning Bolt does kill off this horde, or this regiment of slaves. So now this guy is free. I don't know if he's going to be useful for much, but he's free. And my other blaster, I'm just keeping down here by the hill, just to score and capture it, because he's not going to try to run all the way over here to blow something up. He's just a free scoring unit. I shoot lightning into these. My wizard shoots a lightning bolt into these shock troops. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to hold them up forever, so I might as well start putting a few wounds on them. So 1 wound is better than nothing. This double charge easily kills the slaves. And I don't pivot because I don't want these guys to get flanked. And I think I've blocked this shock troop regiment up. And I cause 2 wounds in the slaves. Other than that, they're fine. Which, again, for me is fine. The horde of rabble caused 5 wounds, which isn't enough to kill them. My giant, I don't know how many wounds he caused, but apparently on just the first turn of charge, he must have killed that unit of Hackpaws, which means he must have hit pretty hard. I must have rolled really well, because this is inspiring. So, whatever it is, he's dead, so that's great. Although that means that he's going to get... Oh, actually he can't, because after he charged and killed him, I had him back up. So he's actually back an inch or so. And this building doesn't have a visible footprint, but we ended up... Because then it was like, well, what are you going to do? Are you treat it as is, or as if it's on a square? Because then if he charges me and I countercharge, I'll slide over to the left. So he said we're going to pretend it's on a footprint. And, yeah, he's barely in. But these guys, between him being back, my giant being back an inch, and where this building would be, this group of brutes isn't going to be able to charge him. Let's see, I believe this is his turn now, so his wheel backs up to shoot at me. The Knight Champion's going to shoot at me. This Doom Wheel comes over so they can shoot at me. These guys countercharge into my riders, and the poor shock troops are just kind of jammed up because they can't complete a pivot to flank charge over here. And here you can see a double charge into my rabble. And this guy decides to fly over here and shoot some lightning. He's just looking for an opening somewhere to go. These guys were wavered, so they're just stuck. And this horde of shock troops is moving up and just kind of hanging out. He gets him up to 19 wounds, but he rolls double ones. So my rabble is, I don't want to say fine, but they're alive. He causes a couple wounds to my Fleabag Riders here in the center. And all of his shooting over here between the two Doom Wheels and the Knight Champion kill my Horde of Trolls, which is unfortunate. As you can imagine, I was not happy about that. So that changes the calculation for me a little bit. So on my turn, this is kind of the end here of his. So my top of 4 in the center, my Giant and my Knight Champion charge into his, again, I think it's called Death Engine. And I decided to charge his Knight over here. I was like 1 point ahead on lightning damage. I didn't want him zapping things and being free, so whatever. Tied him up. And actually, I got 5 wounds, and with the Orcish Skull Pole, I managed to waver him, which was great. Put a few wounds on the Death Engine, not enough to kill it, but start. Got these hack paws up to 10 wounds, but they didn't break. And the Giant only puts 2 on. Actually, he maybe put 3. Maybe this is the beginning of his turn because I started not taking many photos towards the later half of the game. But either way, he attacked. Isn't going to break these brutes, and with regeneration, it's going to be a problem actually for me. And you can see I shuffled my stuff around a little bit. Since his this is the beginning of his turn actually for movement, but since his demon spawn had moved over to the left, I had turned both of my trolls to the left. That way, they didn't have to face each other because he wasn't going to charge them. This guy could still pivot and charge up the middle if he needed to, and then if his demon spawn came over here somewhere, my trolls would be able to hit him. He's decided to recenter his demon spawn now on his turn, bottom of 4. These guys sidestep over, and his shock troops move up a little bit more. Again, just kind of a quagmire over here, which is fine, I think. Again, with my intent of trying to hold this objective, I've still got a lot more unit strength over here than he does. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to somehow get over to this hill. Probably not. But if he wants to claim it, he's going to have something nearby, maybe this Death Engine. I healed, since my standard bearer didn't have anything to heal. My standard bearer healed them up to 17. He charged again with his hack paws into them, and again rolled Snake Eyes. So that's twice now Snake Eyes for this Rabble Horde. His brutes only do 3 wounds to my Giant, which is great. Over here in the center, he attacks and wavers my Fleabag Riders in the middle, which again is fine. They're just stalling up and holding these shock troops back. I think the shock troops are trying to shuffle around so they can complete a wheel and get out of there, but it's tough with this impassable terrain there. And he ends up, I think he countercharges with his Death Engine, puts a few wounds on my Giant, but nothing significant, and he backs away with his Knight Champion. I can still see him around the corner though, so not enough. Top of 5, you can see this blaster is just chilling behind the hill, claiming it. This blaster, so I didn't pivot him enough or the right way, so I had to pivot him again. So he's not moving at full speed yet, but I'm hoping to get him into the center. He may be useful for something, because these guys aren't going to hold forever. Giant countercharged into here. My Knight had never actually lightning bolted his Knight. I need to at least do 1 wound to get the victory point. So instead of charging and killing him, I'm just going to step forward and lightning bolt him. They're just going to stand. This rabble, I wasn't sure where to put him. I think I've stalled enough in the middle here. I'm hoping if he comes over to the right, he may be able to assist. Wrong way. Yeah, you can see him here. Maybe he'll do a flank charge on the shock troops. Maybe he can thread the gap and get to this hill, or at least contest it. I mean, it's 2 unit strength, so that'll be enough to cancel out both these monsters. It's only, I mean, it's already a top of 5. The game could end next turn. He's not going to be able to get there, but maybe if it goes to 7 and he doesn't block me, yeah, it's Probably not going to happen, but, I'm trying to plan ahead, and he's not doing anything right now. Mincer and Trolls charge into these 8 wound slaves. I'm not sure why I charged these guys into the shock troops. It's just committing them to getting killed. And I kind of want them to come off the hill, maybe. I'm not sure, but I did it. And then over here again, Giant charges into his trolls, or they're called brutes. Rabble countercharges his hackpaws. I decide I'm going to move the trolls all the way forward now. This way, this guy can't charge them. The trolls might actually be out of inspiring, so this way they're a little safer because they can't get hit. And I don't care if his guy flies in the back and pivots, because now I'm concerned about unit strength, and I'm going to have plenty of unit strength. Not sure what his action shot is showing, but that's where everybody is. Oh, I mean, because inspiration is such a problem over here, the standard bearer has been running, trying to get over here where he's needed. We kill the hackpaws, put a couple more wounds on these brutes, but again, not enough to break them. A couple wounds on the shock troops, but that's not going to be significant. We obviously kill those crippled slaves. I think I cast Lightning Bolt with this wizard into these guys, but I don't kill them. We do kill the Death Engine, though, and I put a wound on his wizard, but he's not dead, so not enough. Bottom of 5, his turn. He can't combo charge, but he could sidestep enough to let the shock troops charge into these guys. Kind of weird, but it worked out fine. So he gets in there. He finally frees the shock troops, and yeah, these guys are going to get smoked. Oh, and I think I'm not sure what that guy did. I think he has or is going to countercharge my Knight Champion. Yep, countercharge in here. No big surprise. The Demon Spawn decides to charge into the undefeatable rabble. He gets countercharge, of course. His Death Engine on the right over here can barely see him. There's a lot of cover. So he puts another couple wounds on me with shooting. They countercharge into my rabble. So here in the middle, obviously, shock troops kill my Fleabag Riders without any problem. On the right, they kill that rabble, kill finally the horde of rabble, and he puts another few wounds on my giant, but not enough to kill him or break him. I think he wavered him, but he's got fury, so it's fine. That does mean I can't charge his demon spawn, but I'm okay with that. Although it is now getting to the point where next turn is turn 6. If I charge his demon spawn with my trolls, I think they're going to be out of contesting range for this. So then I got to make sure I hold this, and he's going to go last since he went second. I do see, because his shock troops stood, I think because I wanted to keep the hill, I do see now I can advance, pivot, and flank charge into these brutes. So that will free that up and get this horde over here to claim this. So that means the mincer is going to have to charge in here to hold them, which means they're going to be held up, which means I can't claim the hill. But I think it's going to work out. So trolls charge into the demon spawn. They might be within 3 now looking at it, but this way I'll have plenty with these guys flank charging, and I'll be able to clear out the brutes because the giant's never going to be able to do it by himself. Mincer, like I said, charges into the shock troops just to stop them. These guys are moving up, so if it goes turn 7, they can try to get up here. And these guys are doing the same thing. Maybe they can threaten a charge. Maybe they can move and get up here. And if I can put 2 regiments on this hill, that'll cause problems for him. Maybe. I'm going to shoot this rabble, I believe, so that they don't flank charge my guys. We countercharge his champion. and I run my blaster up as far as I can. I couldn't quite charge them, but it got up there. I do shoot off this regiment, so that's great. Over here, we do kill the brutes. We put a few wounds on his, whatever this is, demon spawn. And with the way things are shaping up, again, I had a lot of choices here. I decided to have the troll horde face forward, so if it goes another turn, I can move them forward. I don't know if I have anything to stop these guys from contesting this if I do that, but I think this is a better option for me than facing to the right. With the giant, I should have enough to kill this guy. And if I face him to the left, just to kill those guys, well, this is fine. I can flank charge here anyway if he doesn't kill this. Yeah, action shot. But really, all this is telling you is that I killed his knight champion, turned around to face the middle with the giant here, and on his turn he's moving the doom wheel up to shoot at me again. Yep, I put a few wounds on the shock troops, and they're going to countercharge my mincer. Demon spawns countercharging over there. You can see he moved his standard bearer in front of my rabble, trying to hold them up so I can't contest over there. And I don't know if I have a better shot of that. Yeah. I mean, that's all that's going on in the middle here because there's not too much left. But on the left side here, he's charged his shock troops into my blaster, which I thought was strange. But you'll see that actually was a method to his madness I wasn't tracking. So I'm within 3 here, and he's within 3 here. He's trying to kill my giant. And I've got, I mean, if he kills here and overruns, I've got a flank charge my giant, and my champion can assist. But then I'll be too far away probably to claim this. So, and this, he does kill it, and it blows up and does like 9 or 10 wounds to him. So now these guys are actually kind of hurt, and I might if it goes another turn, or it will. It's on the bottom 5. These guys he could flank charge and potentially kill them, but I don't know if he's going to be close enough. But if they had overrun a few more inches, I think he got 3. If they got another 3, they may have been close enough to actually contest this hill or claim it, because it's his unit strength 3 to my 1 monster. I was not expecting that, and it kind of caught me off guard. Thankfully, it didn't work out for him. Oh, maybe that was bottom of 6. Yeah, it must have been. Because that is the end of the game. And it's funny, if you notice on the photos, he was putting all his dead units over here. I never noticed it during the game. I had no idea. I didn't see where he's putting his dead units. And I thought, throughout the whole game, I was thinking, man, he is killing so much of my crap. He's going to be so far ahead on kill points by unit strength. And then, when it ends, and he starts counting up, I suddenly realized that they're right there. It's like, oh, I actually did kill quite a bit. And it ends up being, I think, like 18, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, 18 unit strength. So 18 points for me. And this is all he killed of mine, which is actually pretty good. It's got 3 mincers, that's 3, 2 blasters for 5. Regiment of Riders is 7. Regiment of Rabble is 9. And then the Troll and the other Rabble Horde, that's 6 more, so 15. So I actually won on that objective. Actually, let's go back. And then if I go really far back, when it comes to objectives, so for objectives on the right here, again, this is a while back, but I had this one. He had this one, so that's 1 point each. And then on the other side of the field, I have this one, and between my giant and his death engine, this one is contested. So I end up with more objectives than him. So I got that point. for those kind of scenarios. And then, so the score at the end, victory points, ends up being 8-5. And that's actually based off this. So on the kill points, I killed one of his hordes, and I killed more than him, but certainly not twice as much. I got all 3 here. And then I had 1 more for controlling terrain, and I had 2 points based off enemy points value killed. I think I killed, 1,000, 1,100, whereas he killed maybe 1,200 of mine. But again, it's not by differential, it's just how much raw point kill did you do. So it encourages, I guess, more reckless play, more aggressive play. So yeah, overall, obviously it was a victory. Not incredibly crushing victory or anything, but a solid one. And some of the lessons I learned, I think I already knew. Blasters are not an easy unit to have, and having 3 of them is incredibly difficult because they can chain blow each other up if you place them too close. They have a very large blast radius, so if you have 3 of them, there's a huge chunk of deployment zone you don't want to. You can't deploy, or it's risky to deploy into. And some armies, as it says there, variable effectiveness, it's not going to be super effective against armies that don't have a lot of high-value toughness targets. Or armies that have a lot of good shooting will shoot them apart. Now, in some ways, they're still like good chaff. They're only 65 points apiece. So, if you got people spending their good shooting against those little pieces of chaff, they kind of work to protect your better units. But those are crazily enough, some of my more killy units. So I don't want them to get killed necessarily. This tournament, with the 2 scenarios per game plus the standard game scenarios for every game, it's going to be very objective based. And as this game kind of showed, I didn't do a lot of killing. I mean, he had a lot of crappy units for me to wipe out easily, but that whole right flank didn't accomplish much, which in some ways is a bad problem. With my lots of units, I create lots of traffic jams because I'm not quite sure where to go. But in some scenarios, or most of these games, because there's so much emphasis on scenarios, it might be okay to have traffic jams as long as you're holding objectives and playing to the scenario and not just focusing on killing the enemy units. I kind of knew this going into it, and again, that's why I was kind of glad to fight Ratkin. My army doesn't have a lot of punch against poor troops, against all those hordes of slaves. I've got a decent amount of, I don't know if I would call them quality attacks, but I got a lot of crushing strength between the 2 giants. The troll hordes all have crushing 3. I've got 3 sources of Bane Chant. So if it's tough troops, and with my blasters, I can put a lot of high piercing, high crushing wounds out. But I don't have a lot of attacks, so chewing through big units is going to be a problem. The good thing is, at least from what I've seen, most people seem to want to take smaller, more elite armies, which I think my army will do well against. So this is a nice challenge against something I think is not an ideal matchup for me. Worked out okay. I made a lot of mistakes, but you do that when you're trying an army out for the first time. So thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and hopefully you did too.